Count 3, signal from space. I won't reveal who I am or where I live. All I can say is that I'm an astronomy enthusiast, someone who has spent much of their life gazing at the sky. Since I was a child, I've been fascinated by the stars. I grew up in a small town, far from the glow of city lights, where the night sky was so clear it looked like an infinite sea of shimmering points. When I finally bought my first telescope, it was like a dream come true. It was amateur-level equipment, but it was enough to connect me with the universe. That night started out like any other. I was in my backyard, my telescope set up and my notebook by my side, ready to jot down coordinates and observations. The night was clear, perfect for stargazing. The Milky Way stretched out like a luminous veil and everything was calm. I was ready for hours of study, hoping to catch something interesting, maybe a meteor or some peculiar feature in the sky. But that night, something found me instead. Around 11 p.m., as I adjusted the telescope to observe a star that had caught my attention, I heard a strange sound coming through the headphones connected to my equipment. It was unlike anything I'd heard before, a high-pitched hum interspersed with faint clicks, as if some kind of frequency was being transmitted. At first, I thought it was interference from the equipment itself, which isn't uncommon for amateur setups. I powered everything down and restarted it, but the sound persisted. I began recording the audio and taking notes. The frequency was consistent, almost like a pattern, but it didn't resemble anything I recognized. It wasn't random static, it was organized like a message. I was intrigued but also uneasy. I tried convincing myself it was just a satellite signal or some local transmission interfering, but this felt different. I looked through the telescope searching for the source, but I saw nothing unusual. Then, for a brief moment, I felt something strange. It's hard to describe, but it was as if the air around me had changed. A sudden chill ran through my body, even though it was a warm night. I looked around, but everything seemed normal. The sound in the headphones, however, grew clearer, and the sense that something unusual was happening intensified. At that moment, I realized this wasn't just another routine night. Something bigger was unfolding, and I wasn't sure I was ready to understand it. As the sound continued, I tried to stay calm. I adjusted the telescope's controls, hoping to locate the source, but no matter how hard I searched, the sky remained empty, just as it always was. Yet the sound in the headphones grew louder, more intense, as if something was drawing closer. The pattern in the sound was impossible to ignore. It had a rhythm, a pulse that seemed to speed up. My heart began to race in time with it, and an overwhelming sense of urgency consumed me. Suddenly, my telescope picked up something unusual. In the viewfinder, I saw a faint, distant light moving erratically. It wasn't a satellite, I was certain of that. It wasn't a plane or any object I could identify either. The light seemed to dance across the sky, shifting positions rapidly in ways no earthly technology could replicate. I tried adjusting the focus to get a clearer view, but the object seemed to evade the telescope's field of vision, almost as if it knew it was being watched. The sound in the headphones changed. It was no longer just an intermittent hum. Now it was something more complex, almost like whispers, voices in a language I couldn't understand. I pulled off the headphones and looked around, expecting to see something nearby, but everything seemed normal. Yet the overwhelming sensation that I wasn't alone crushed me. It wasn't just fear, it was something deeper, like an invisible presence was watching me. Suddenly, the object in the telescope's viewfinder stopped. It remained motionless for a few seconds, emitting an intense glow that flooded the viewfinder with light. At that moment, I realized the sound in the headphones had stopped. Everything around me fell into complete silence. No wind, no insects, nothing. It was as if time itself had frozen. I felt a strange pressure in my head, like a heavy weight, as a wave of heat coursed through my body. I tried to stand up and move, but it was as if my feet were glued to the ground. The object in the telescope vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only an impenetrable darkness in the sky. I shut off my equipment and bolted inside the house, my heart pounding harder than ever before. Once inside, I turned on my laptop to review the audio recordings and telescope images, but everything seemed corrupted. The audio files were just static, and the images were incomprehensible blurs. It was as if the event had never happened, but I knew what I had seen, what I had felt. There was no explanation for it. After that night, I could never look at the sky the same way again. The experience left me unsettled, like something inside me had changed. I spent weeks trying to make sense of what had happened, poring over the few scraps of data I had managed to save, and searching forums for astronomers and UFO enthusiasts. But no matter how much I searched, nothing made sense. There was no logical or technical explanation for what I had witnessed. What disturbed me most was the disappearance of the evidence. The sound I recorded, the glow captured by the telescope, it was all gone or rendered unrecognizable. It felt like the equipment itself had been tampered with by something beyond my control. Some friends who know about my astronomy hobby dismissed it as exhaustion or a hallucination. But I know it wasn't. There's no way to fabricate what I felt that night. The weight in the air, the absolute silence, and the certainty that something or someone was out there watching. In the months that followed, I started noticing other strange things. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up with the uncanny feeling of being watched, even inside my own home. I installed cameras in my backyard, but they never recorded anything unusual. Even so, the sensation lingered. On the clearest nights, when the stars shone the brightest, I avoided going outside to observe. The fear of reliving that experience outweighed my curiosity. The experience has driven me away from what was once my greatest passion. My telescope, which used to be my inseparable companion, now gathers dust in a corner of the house. I can't bring myself to use it anymore without remembering that sound, that object, that overwhelming sense of vulnerability that consumed me. It feels as though something was taken from me that night, perhaps the certainty that we were alone in the universe. Now, I look at the stars with a mixture of awe and unease. I always ask myself, if what happened was real, what exactly did I witness? Was it contact, observation, or just a cosmic coincidence? And more importantly, could it happen again? I don't have those answers, but deep down, I know that night was a warning. I don't know from whom or why, but something tells me what I saw was only the beginning. So, I ask you, the one hearing this story, if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you keep looking at the sky, or would you close your eyes to the unknown? Because after that night, I'm no longer sure of anything, except that we are not alone.